If you've ever heard that term, we wouldn't speak to friends or family, or strangers even, the way we speak to ourselves, then you'll understand when I say that the movie Liar Liar reminds me of that, right, with Jim Carrey. Now, it doesn't matter if you like Jim Carrey or like the movie, it doesn't matter. What I'm going after here is the premise. And if you don't know the premise, basically, Jim Carrey plays a very slick lawyer who is always late, lies to his son, and his son makes a wish on his birthday, hoping that his dad would never be able to lie again, right? And so, the universe casts a spell on Jim Carrey, and he is unable to tell a lie. And what unfolds is a number of situations and circumstances and interactions that we can either deem interesting, stupid, or entertaining, or funny, or whatever, right? Doesn't matter. It's the premise that I find interesting. And what's interesting about that is this very notion, right, of why is it that we know enough not to tell our absolute truth to people that we meet or are friends with, but we can think it, right? We know how to keep that under wraps, for the most part. But when it comes to ourselves, we have no problem speaking our absolute truth and letting ourselves know exactly how we think or feel. And many people refer to that voice as an inner critic. Now, I get that because the voice is highly critical often, but I don't believe that critic was always a critic. I think there was a time when that voice was an inner coach. And we're all born with this coach, and its purpose is to help us get through life, right? But as life goes on, that coach becomes frustrated because we don't always listen to our coach. And in that frustration, it resorts to name calling and using expressions and phrases that are unsavory, to put lightly, right? We say things to ourselves that are horrific sometimes, really, if we want to call a spade a spade. And so when we're working with clients and the term inner critic comes up, I always like to introduce this notion of working with the critic, right? Of sort of returning it to its original state of being a coach. Because if we're honest, what the critic is saying, there's truth in that, right? So here's an example. Let's say that I have a Substack to write, or an email to return, or somebody to reach out to, or a form to fill out online. There's something that I have to do. And instead, I go onto social media and just start messing around, spending time doing stupid stuff, just looking at things that absolutely do not fill my day with any purpose or what have you, right? And then the critic starts to call that out. So what I like to do is to ask myself the question, what is it exactly that you want me to know? And in that moment, that simple question does two things. It diffuses the critic because it gives it a moment of being heard, right? And so the name calling falls away. You've sort of let some air out of the balloon, for lack of a better description, right? And then the second thing it does is it takes away all the nastiness of the dialogue and it boils it down to the essence of the message. And so the essence of the message, amongst all the name calling, is that I need to stop procrastinating and get on with the work that's in front of me. And that's true. And that's not mean. It's not horrific or hurtful. It's true. But often our critic doesn't speak to us like that. But the message, the underlying message of the name calling, is truth. And so what we do with that truth is then up to us. If I then catch myself, okay, you're right. I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to get up, get another cup of tea. I'm going to come back, sit down, and I'm going to get at this. Okay? So, situation, problem solved, if you will. Okay? But I had to stop the name calling. I had to shut that down, because what often happens for people is the name calling becomes so intense that we just don't know how to work with it, right? It becomes debilitating almost, because it's just so over the top. And so we become numb to it. But when we stop the name calling, when we're able to identify what's at the basis of the name calling, it gives us something to work with. In my case, not procrastinating. And that is something I can work with. All the other name calling that came with it, okay, fair enough. I'm not concerned with that. What I am concerned with is the procrastination. But the trouble is that we see the critic as hurtful, as someone who's out to get us. But I don't see it that way. I see it as a coach, if we let it be a coach. And the question, what is it you want me to know, is a question that can take the critic and return them to that place of being your coach, being someone on your side, in your corner, however you want to describe it, right? You adapt a synergistic relationship now with that voice, as opposed to a combative one. It's no longer you against the voice, it's you with the voice, because it's now coaching you. It wants what's best for you, and it's on your side. Your mindset matters? You bet. You bet. That, again, is a choice. It's working with our shortcomings, not just trying to shove them away. It's a very effective way to identify areas for us to improve. Okay? So, when it comes to the critic, ask the question and be nice to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Share some of that inner love, right? Because, the other stuff is just it's not helping anybody, especially you. Okay, we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.